Hi folks, welcome back. Sorry about my hair. I'm just noticing it's looking like a bird's nest, but I'm not going to mess with it. This is going to be a bird's nest video, or something like that. This video, so a few. Sorry, there's ambient noise and music and whatever it is, but we'll put up with it. After all, this is a video about Neptune, and Neptune's the planet of music, so we'll just think that Neptune is with us here. A few days ago, maybe weeks, a few videos ago, I did a video on the three eclipses, just an eclipse overview. And in it that I mentioned that there are three eclipses that are coming up. There's one in 2 days' time on June the 5th in Sagittarius, and then one on June the 21st, solar eclipse in Cancer, and then one on July the 4th, the lunar eclipse in Capricorn. And as many of you are aware, the eclipses are shifting from the sign of Cancer and Capricorn. So the June 21st and July 4th eclipses are the last eclipses in Cancer Capricorn for another 17 to 19 years. And then the Sagittarius eclipse that we have in 2 days' time is the first of the eclipses that is going to gain increasing influence as we get to the end of this year, but especially for the rest of this year, increasing influence as we head to the end of this year, and then particularly in 2021. I had stated since then that a lot of my videos were going to be focused on the transits in Gemini. At the time of the eclipse, the sun will be in Gemini and the moon is going to be in Sagittarius. That's why it's going to be a full moon, and in this case it's going to be an eclipse. And I was going to first do videos talking about the Gemini Sagittarius eclipses and covering all the different transits and factors that affect this eclipse, and then move towards talking about the eclipses in Cancer and Capricorn. And that still is very much the plan. I need to do this video to really round out everything that there is to be talked about influences that are playing out now, and then move on to the actual video on the eclipse itself, which I will do in the next couple of days. And then I'm going to talk about the Cancer Capricorn eclipses. The sign of Cancer is already activated by the fact that a few days ago Mercury left Gemini and moved into Cancer. So we are now truly in eclipse season. There's no escaping it, and certainly everything that is playing out around us seems to indicate or give us a clear sense of the fact that chapters and books are coming to a close and new ones somewhere getting started. The eclipse in Sagittarius in 2 days' time is going to see the sun and a retrograde Venus together opposite the moon. Sun and retrograde Venus in Gemini, moon in Sagittarius full. And at a 90-degree angle is going to be Mars, practically to the minute, in Pisces, getting closer and closer within 5 degrees of Neptune. And on June the 13th, Mars and Neptune will be conjunct. And this Mars-Neptune conjunction is a very important transit to consider when we look at this eclipse that is coming up in 2 days' time. It is a standoff between the forces in Pisces and the forces at play in Gemini and Sagittarius. And I'm going to talk more about the eclipse in a separate video. This one is about this Mars-Neptune conjunction that is facing off and creating, as I've described, this kind of gear-lock tension, this stuckness that needs to be broken and that we're trying to break out of, and that we cannot break out of by going about business in a normal way. Sound resonant? I'm also going to encourage you in future, if I ever do a video like the new moon in Gemini one that I did, which I did 2 of, where I seem like I'm doubting my own strengths and my own interpretations as an astrologer. Sorry about the ambient noise. I don't know if you're picking it up, but I'm going to keep going. Just remind me of the new moon in Gemini videos that I've done. You know, I couldn't quite fathom, I titled New Moon in Gemini video War and Peace, and I couldn't fathom how those energies would show up. And I so wanted to be in denial of sort of the Mars and Pisces energy and its effect on everything that's going on. And the second video, where I pretty much repeated almost everything I said, but I integrated the Mars, the sort of war conflict aspect of things, showed me struggling with making predictions that the chart was telling me, but they hadn't just shown up yet. And then sure enough, within a few days' time, we were in War and Peace. So I'm going to put links to the videos at the end of this one when I'm done processing it. But I'm going to keep going. You know, part of it is fatigue. I think with the lockdowns and everything that's been going on globally, there's a sense of fatigue, and there's things that are playing out for all of us, for myself and for my clients personally, and there are things that are playing out globally. And there was a part of me that, even though I understand and know that eclipses are at work, there was a part of me that thought, really, there's more? and heck, there is more. 2020 is indeed a year of a massively transitional year. Okay, now let's talk about Mars and Neptune. Mars is the planet, or the god, if we want to, well, the god of war, but really to be understood from the place of going after whatever it is that he wants. Sometimes it's just hunting or gathering, sometimes it's the laying of boundaries, sometimes it's conflicts, sometimes it's vacuuming the living room. You know, you are in conflict with the dust. When you go out and do something, there's an assumption that there's going to be a certain degree of conflict, however benign, however extreme. Sometimes the conflict is with your own sense of lethargy. Sometimes it's with the influence of other planets that may be getting in the way of whatever it is that needs to get done. Mars is the testosterone planet. He gives you the desire to have the desire and then translate that desire into action to get certain things done. Sometimes it is towards goals, and sometimes it is towards defense, and sometimes it is towards attack. In Pisces, Mars's powers are a little complicated because this fiery planet is in this ocean of connectedness. And also, as I mentioned in some previous videos, whatever actions are being taken towards conflict may be made immediately visible to us. Mars may be thinking that it's being underhanded, but will be made immediately visible to us through Uranus ways, technology, epiphanies, and certainly that has also been coming to pass. One thing I missed fascinating, and that has been fascinating me, is that Mars in Pisces could also mean that we're fighting for the collective. And certainly that has been playing out in interesting ways. But I'm still going to come back to, you know, let's just stick with the drama. I did 2 videos where I did not want to address the drama, or I was shying away from the drama, and I realized that I've got to let the chart speak. So let's just address the drama in the chart. But before we do that, let me just say, eclipses don't always affect everybody negatively. There are people who are seeing massive eclipse-like significant improvements and growth in their profiles, in their achievements, in terms of offers being made to them. So it does not always have to be a negative change. Sometimes it can be a positive change, significant change. The other rules around eclipses apply with regard to a higher frequency of people transitioning, passing on, dying, situations being eclipsed out of your life, relationships, people, and then of course, underneath all this is this powerful underlay of the fact that we're going through a period of re-evaluation. What do we value? What is important to us? What are we fighting for? What are we doing? And what are we living for? What do we value? And and from a relationship and a financial perspective especially, what is supporting that and what may be getting in its way? With Mars conjuncting Neptune, it's very there are some positive aspects to it. Neptune rules Pisces, and just as a friendly reminder to people who have been with me for a while and may not need this reminder because I've talked about it so much, Pisces is where there was a crisis in late 2015 and 2016. And these were eclipses, but they were even more compounded by the fact that Chiron was present in Pisces. They were eclipses, but extraordinarily significant ones in terms of something needed to be released and there was some sort of crisis. And if you know your chart and where Pisces sits in your chart, it might help remind you or give you a sense of where some of this is playing out. Now, every successive Mercury retrograde in Pisces since then has presented an opportunity for us to revisit mentally with what we can process around what it is that happened during that time and try to spiral out of it. We progressively revisit things, take action to the best of our capacity and ability, and then let things settle down and then come back and revisit it again so that we can find our way out of it. Mars's presence in Pisces undeniably means that on a personal level, we are having to take action around these areas or these subjects, either through defense or through attack, either through going after what it is that we want to go after and pursuing certain goals, or through a certain amount or element of combat, however uncomfortable that combat is. I did mention when I did the Mars and Pisces video, some of these combative elements, as I mentioned before, will both become, you'll think that you might be doing it in an underhanded or behind the scenes way, but they will be relatively transparent, I think. And the other aspect of it is that there's something to the Mars and Pisces energy that has a dead in the water component, as I realized since that it may also be dead in the water insofar as Mars's pursuit is typically egoic, is typically selfish. My goals, my boundaries, my protection, what I want. And in Mars and Pisces, it could be that those are translated towards the collective good. What do we want? There is that square with Venus. There is that 90-degree angle to the lunations. So it's not, even though we might be fighting for the collective, there's a sense of conflict in terms of relationships and natural flow and balance and harmony. And we're seeing that play out. Part of the reason why I'm coming into this video with a certain amount of gusto and a desire to really interpret the chart and get out of my own way is because that new moon in Gemini video, as confounding as it was, proved itself and came true in a few days' time after that new moon in Gemini in terms of war and peace and what it is that we're fighting for and how we're doing this dance. Now, gaslighting. Before we get to the gaslighting, which is a classic consequence of a Mars-Neptune conjunction, Neptune rules Pisces and is the planet of mysticism and connection and surrender and connection to the divine and connection to spirit in a way that it loosens material bonds. It connects us to the ultimate reality. There's a mysticism around it that is very resonant of, say, the Bhakti poets in India, or Sufism, or Rumi, or, this kind of intense consummation with the divine to the exclusion of all else. And this exclusion, it can be the planet of music, it can be the planet of spirituality, it can be the planet of inspiration, it can be the planet of checking out through drugs or means that silence the mind and disconnect us from 3D reality by connecting us to something larger, or escaping 3D reality, which is the reality we have to deal with to some extent. And Neptune's ways of doing that could be all of these that I mentioned, or can sometimes be underhanded. Sometimes the things that are meant to be lost, or where we may be too attached, or where we have to release certain, it could be that loss has to happen through deceit, or it has to happen through lying, or thievery, or because with Neptune, the idea is to understand that you really don't own or possess anything or anybody. And so if your relationship to certain things is as a Neptune or spirit has ordained, too intensely attached, then certain negative Neptunian activities may be needed for you to realize that they are not yours, were never yours, will never be yours to begin with. So the ultimate relationship is with Neptune, it's like a third party enters a relationship. And that third party is not another person, it's God, it's spirit. And so all of a sudden you find that you're having an affair with God and have to disband other relationships or things that are sort of in your way. It's fascinating. It's as ridiculous as that sounds. I'm going to leave that there. Sorry, that music seems to have gotten louder. Neptune is very present. Okay, Mars conjunct Neptune, the planet of action conjunct the planet of mysticism and surrender, can mean, in the positive side, I am titling this video Gaslighting among other things, can mean an increase during this time period, the middle of May to the end of June, in spirituality and spiritual connection and spiritual pursuit. It can certainly mean a pursuit of the collective good and oneness. We're seeing some of that play out. It can certainly mean the pursuit of creative activities and inspirational activities, or in the realms of the performing arts or the creative arts, music, acting, inspiration coming up from somewhere. And with the Mars-Neptune transit, there's certain people who may come across as being extraordinarily attractive to us through creative means. And Neptune rules the screens, so the silver screen or television screen, it's an illusion, but through these creative means, there could be people who have some sort of quantum growth or a lot of action and energy being placed into a particular part of their chart that has to do with creativity and creative endeavors. Okay, so all of that could be playing out in interesting and positive ways, perhaps, for a lot of people. However, there's one transit that we can't ignore in this atmosphere of conflict and growth, and the kind of growth demanded to it's, as I said, it's like these gears are stuck, and we have to sort of get off the paradigm of emancipation and victimhood into a place of love, natural, healthy love and flow for ourselves and others, where boundaries can be can be said much more easily with a sense of flow and ease, as opposed to, you know, sort of being emancipated and independent is only the other side of the coin of being victimized, right? So you're still in the same story. So somewhere this gridlock needs to be sort of, there's no way out other than to explode out of it. It's a face-off. And when we're talking of face-off, it becomes important to look at gaslighting as a component in this that is prevalent and gains momentum and continues to be present as we head towards June the 13th. Here's how I define gaslighting, and I'm doing this video because I've used this term a few times before and a couple of people asked me about it. There are lots of videos on this. The term gaslighting seems to have originated from a play and then 2 movies that were done in the 30s and 40s. Certainly the most famous movie had Ingrid Bergman and Charles Boyer in it, and Ingrid Bergman won an Academy Award for it, directed by George Cukor in 1944, 41, 42, 44 or so. By all means, check it out. There's a play and then 2 movies, the US version of the movie being the more famous one. And the idea of gaslighting, I see the gaslighting play out in so many fascinating ways on a macro or political level right now that I can't ignore it. The idea of gaslighting is that someone is doing something deceitful, behind the scenes, underhanded, and the victim is realizing this, but because they're being lied to, they can't put their finger on it, they can't articulate it. So as they start to investigate or ask questions, the gaslighter, the liar, plays the following game around making the victim disbelieve or lose trust in their own intuition by accusing them of, and it isn't a direct accusation, gaslighting, it's almost in the guise of being friendly. So a conversation could be, let's say that I am somehow cheating you, and you are starting to ask me questions about it, and I would gaslight you in the following way. I would start to say things like, you know, you've been acting really strange over the past 2 or 3 days. Is everything all right? I'm a little concerned about you. You seem really stressed. You actually, you seem really paranoid. You're asking me all these questions and you're so suspicious all the time. You know, it becomes, gaslighting is a technique of, for the liar or the deceiver or the person who's doing the underhanded thing to not take accountability for something by making the other person feel or seem as if they're crazy. And not only does the gaslighting occur between the perpetrator and the victim, in me saying to you, you know, I'm really concerned about you, you seem really stressed, you must be under a lot of pressure, you seem paranoid. And of course the victim, because they can sense that they're being lied to and being lied to again, but are starting to doubt themselves. Sorry, there's a bee here. Oh, or a hornet. Oh, gone. That is not gaslighting. Oh dear. Sorry, I hate bees and hornets. Have a good laugh at that. Okay, so irrespective, I must smell really good. So irrespective, the gaslighting, the victim actually starts to act like they're, you know, paranoid or they're freaked out because they're trying to figure something out, and then they're realizing that the person they're talking to, typically someone who's close to them, typically someone they should trust, especially happens between spouses, starts lying to them even more. And they know this, but then they start to doubt themselves and so they start to become crazier. Ingrid Bergman is an expert at playing parts where you start to doubt. You know, she did it in Gaslight, of course, and got an Oscar for it. She did it again in Notorious to some extent, where you start to wonder, am I going crazy? Am I being poisoned? Or am I losing my mind? And that's exactly what the gaslighter is trying to induce in you. Now, there's a personal component, there's a social component. So I would not only do that to you and make you feel like you were losing your mind or you were paranoid, and the implication that the other party is mentally ill or extremely stressed or under a lot of pressure to hide what you are doing is classic gaslighting. And it's as if the person who's doing it doesn't even know or understand what these mental illnesses are in their truest form. It's thrown about. And the other part of this is that there's a public component of it. So not only would I do this to you, I would start to talk to our mutual friends and relatives and say, you know, Joan or Jane, I'm really worried about him or her because they've been accusing me of these things, and I think they're under a lot of pressure. You know, I think they're going through a lot at work, and you know, I think I'm concerned that they're going crazy. So you start to not only accuse your accuser of being crazy, you start to present that perspective around them, and the accuser starts to appear crazy, even though the accuser is onto the fact that the gaslighter is lying and gaslighting. Classic gaslighting behavior. What does gaslighting look like these days? Peaceful protesters, and someone is organizing and putting bricks next to them. Peaceful protesters versus looters. You're on social media and you encounter pages or messages that are deeply resonant with your truth, but are they being set and put in place by people who are like-minded, or is it a foreign power that is managing these pages to increase dissent and create non-Piscean divides by acting like your friend and making it seem like there's this group out there, and by constantly feeding you messages that support, by appearing to be a friend while being an enemy in a very underhanded way, because they're actually giving you messages that conform with your values, but the messages are not coming from a friend. The message is coming from someone who is trying to undermine you or debilitate your society. This kind of gaslighting in direct conflict with the reevaluation with Venus retrograde, the reevaluation of what we value, and the flow and harmony and the natural flow and harmony of divine life, of the feminine principle of flow, balance, respect, fairness, harmony in relationships, so present right now. And for some people personally, this could also be present. Now, for some of us personally, it could be present in benign forms. What's a benign form of gaslighting? It could be that you are working for a certain party and you're looking at opportunities for somebody. Thank you to the client who gave me this. It was a brilliant way of, in a benign way, in a non-attacking way, really, on some level. To some extent, we all gaslight when we say, oh, we're going to go to the dentist appointment, but we're going to an interview. What are you going to say to your employer? Oh, I'm going looking for another job? No, you lie in order to pursue certain opportunities. This could be true if you're dating someone. Again, themes of attraction, deceptively attractive people, intense connection, intense sexuality, very Mars and Neptune. In certain cases, hey, if at a time of lockdown you find someone to have a great time with and great connection with, more power to you. With Mars conjunct Neptune, while the connection may be hot and heavy and intensely spiritual, there is a question to be asked with regard to, do you really have a sense of reality here with regard to who this other person is? And that plays out both in terms of intensely personal relationship dynamics and then on a more macro level as well. I am trusting this, I am putting it out there. Not everyone is going to experience this, not everyone is going to experience it with the same intensity. It depends on where Mars-Neptune, as I said, the Mars-Neptune conjunction can simply be that you are finding yourself in a place of greater, I'm not going to say intuition, but greater spirituality, place of greater surrender. And does that mean, and so that when the third party of spirit inserts itself between you and other relationships, that's not gaslighting per se, but it's not even close together. But there's a loosening of bond, there's a strengthening of the bond with spirit that is underwork. So there are definitely different. Gaslighting is not the only. If you are doing something creative, and it is taking off, or it's really paying dividends, or you find yourself on fire in that way, that is not a Mars conjunct Neptune gaslighting impact, but that could be a way in which this transit is playing out in your life. But for other people, the idea of underhanded behavior, whether it is benign or whether it is overt, can't be ignored. And my new moon and Gemini videos found myself in a place where I was ignoring the conflict or not wanting to deal with it or not wanting to acknowledge it, or frankly finding that it was not here yet, but that the astrology was stating that it was here. And then finding within a few days that, oh, I had read the chart right. I was just starting to, it just hadn't shown up yet. And so I was starting to doubt myself a little bit and wanted to give everyone a break too. But eclipse season is not a time for breaks. So if you are not dealing with gaslighting in the way that I described it, and by all means, there are plenty of other videos and other experts and psychologists and other behavioral experts who will be able to help you through that process. By all means, look at experts who Deal with professionally helping people navigate through gaslighting behavior by all means. That is where you need to look at it. As an astrologer, when I use gaslighting as a term, I'm referring to a deflection technique when someone is being deceitful. And gaslighting, people who are gaslighters typically gaslight their spouses. They could be having an affair with someone, a series of affairs. They typically will give the impression that their spouse is somehow maniacal, somehow crazy, has lost it, has lost their grip on reality, as a way of justifying what they are doing. Okay, and typically people who gaslight others, because it's something that is done in very close quarters. It's done by people who are close to you. So for me, gaslighting is that it's a personal, close relationship. You're doing something deceitful, the other person is calling you on it, and your technique to handle it is to make the other person seem like they're crazy. No, I'm really concerned about you. Are you okay? You're starting to question me, like, something's not right. You know, are you sleeping enough? Are you stressed about work? Are you stressed about money? It's starting to affect you. You know, you'll create that at the heart of gaslighting, to make you lose trust in yourself and start to think you're crazy and start to then push you into acting like you're crazy. So it only corroborates the story that this is a deceitful one, am feeding you and others around you while I am deceiving you. Okay, so certainly we're seeing this play out on a macro level. I'm going to talk in the eclipse video as to how these transits are are creating the dish that is the eclipse, but I wanted to do a separate video on the Mars-Neptune transit that, frankly, fortunately, is done by June the 13th. And even though, but the June the 13th, it's important for me to give you that date, because even though this lunar eclipse is on June the 5th, some element of this continues to play out for another week. Whoever's playing this music is they have never played this, you know. Talk about a Mars conjunct Neptune being pulled on this astrologer here as he's trying to do a video in a relatively benign way. Okay, if you found this video useful for any number of reasons, if you're feeling, one important thing, if you're not feeling this kind of gaslighting behavior, please don't go looking for it, and please don't get paranoid. Don't use this video as to sort of benignly gaslight you. You know, just because I'm describing a certain behavior that I think is prevalent, is playing out politically. Another way gaslight can play out politically is you're on Facebook and you look at a page. Oh, I gave you this example already. I'm seeing this a lot where I really am starting to question a lot of things that we're being fed that seem like are in alignment with our values and beliefs, but may not be constructive and may not be geared towards actually helping the union as much as it may be interference from others to disable the union. That doesn't mean that the problems in the union don't exist, but there's the divide and conquer method is a form of gaslighting, okay? Other movies, I mentioned Notorious, Gaslight, of course, and then now Voyager, you know, is a great that's more of a systemic abuse movie, but there's a strong element of gaslighting in it. Great movie. It has a strong element of gaslighting in it. Again, a relationship between two people who should be really close to each other, but a certain degree of gaslighting is occurring there as well. If you found this video useful, share it, talk about it, let other people know about it, subscribe to my YouTube channel, click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button. Oh, and the music stopped just as I've stopped doing this video. Maybe it was a soundtrack you needed for some bizarre reason, or maybe I just needed to be benignly whatever. I can't call it gaslighting. They're not making me seem crazy. They're just driving me crazy. So click the subscribe button, and if you click on the bell icon, you'll be notified when I do new videos. Oh no, it's not over. It's back. Then once and feel free to leave a comment. My contact information is in the subject area below, so you can contact me if you're interested in inquiring about rates for readings, if you want me to make an easy to read version of your chart that'll show you which signs are in which houses. You will need to know your birth time for that. Remember, if you know your chart, where Pisces is especially important for the purpose of this video, because that's where Mars is conjuncting Neptune, and then you've also got Gemini and Sagittarius to consider. The next video I do will be on the lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. I'm going to spare you the soundtrack. I'm going to let you ponder this video. If you're not being gaslit, go be spiritual, for God's sakes. Try and find a bit of a break. Oh, by all means, use the Mars-Neptune conjunction to make you think about and to add to this idea of what it is that we value and what it is that we have to fight towards in terms of the collective, or what it is that we have to ponder. Certainly the idea of war and peace, attack and retreat, taking care of ourselves and taking care of others is extremely resonant. Little did I know in the New Moon in Gemini video. That is a helicopter, and it is curfew time. So it is like the LAPD probably looking for someone or starting curfew practices. It is a noisy time, people. The eclipses are upon us. Till my next video, take care.